Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
Fredo, you're my older brother, and I love you. But don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again.
An organised crime family's aging patriarch needs to transfer control of the family business to the new generation. At its heart, it's the story of a father-son relationship in changing and challenging times. Since its release in 1972, The Godfather has been regarded as one of the greatest and most influential movies ever made. Coppola is widely considered one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. I can highly recommend The Conversation, Rumblefish and The Outsiders, and of course Apocalypse Now and The Godfather Part 2. Now I want to talk about my Four Kings theory, so bear with me. In boxing, the Four Kings were Hagler, Hearns, Duran and Sugar Ray Robinson, four of the greatest boxers ever to come along at the same time. They literally fought each other again and again, winning and losing to each other. The results were some of the greatest fights of all time. It also raised all of them to a much higher level. This has only ever happened once in the history of boxing. In cinema, the Four Kings are Lucas, Spielberg, Milius, my personal favourite, and Coppola. Although they didn't literally fight each other, they raised each other's level to probably the greatest cinema has ever known. This truly was the golden age of film. Unlike in boxing, these Four Kings helped each other to reach these higher levels. For example, Lucas helped uncredited on part of the filming of The Godfather. Will we ever see their like in film again? Like Coppola, Pacino was the son of Italian-American parents. The studio wanted an established star. Coppola selected Pacino, to the dismay of the studio's executives. For me, Pacino did all his best work in the 70s. Serpico, The Godfather, Dog Day Afternoon. He also made a couple of good movies in the 80s, Cruising and Scarface. Although he hasn't made a good film since the 80s, you can't deny he's one of the best ever. We also have the likes of Brando, Duvall and Caan. There are great performances across the board. Let's not forget the actors' studio had a significant influence on the movie, and we have some of the greatest actors of all time bouncing creatively off each other here. Based on Mario Puzo's book, Coppola and Puzo created one of the all-time great screenplays. Puzo uses his chance to refine and improve his story. This is not typical with screenplays. Nino Rota was an Italian composer, pianist, conductor and academic who is best known for his film scores, notably the films of Fellini, Visconti and Zeffirelli. He received the Academy Award for The Godfather Part 2. The American dream is not given, it's earned. There is a reason we look to America in the 50s. It was here in post-war Americana, America at its peak. Life was far from perfect, but all could see brighter days ahead. Compare this to the deconstruction of the American dream of 2021. Many are looking at the managed decline of an empire. Things may have to get a lot worse before they can get better. But I still believe in the dream that is America. Nostalgia is a huge part of this story, a desire for simpler times. How does a man with conservative values navigate in an ever-progressing world? Is change always good, or can we learn from the past? The Don's warm and traditional ways are supplanted by the colder, nihilistic approach to life. This is an unconventional representation of family values. Things are not what they used to be, and the feeling is the best is now over. Where are the next frontiers, the next empires to build? There are many lessons in this film of how to be a man. For example, a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man. It also deals with the corruption of man. Authorities are corrupt. Politics and the press, the police. These are the lessons that seem relevant today. Times are changing. This is best represented by drugs, which Vito tries to resist. The 50s may be a distant memory for us, but for the writer and director, it was part of their lives. Authenticity is dripping from every scene, and its love of the subject matter is undeniable. An Italian-American director, writer, and actors, and a full-blooded Italian from the home country as a musical composer. This is a story of the Italian-American experience told by Italian-Americans. You have to remember, this was before Italians had white privilege. We can identify with this killer family because we recognize in ourselves the dark lengths we will go to protect our families. Vito's plan at the start for Michael has been to go legit, politics being an obvious choice, although nowadays I have more respect for gangsters than politicians. But it was not meant to be. At his core, Vito is a good man, his unwillingness to involve the family in the dirty drug business. It's here where Sonny, the new generation, shows disunity in the family to strangers. That gets his father shot. In the beginning of the story, Michael is trying to subvert expectations. He wants to find a life away from the family business. He joins the army against the wishes of his family and finds himself an American girlfriend, non-Italian. But after the assassination attempt on his father, he begins to feel guilt. I like how Coppola uses doors as a motif in this film, most notably when Michael's face is half covered in the hospital scene, where his father is in danger of a second assassination attempt. It is a moment where he needs to make a choice. Is he in or out? Doors are constantly used in scenes. The second pivotal door scene is at the end, where the door closes on Kay as Michael transforms to the Godfather. The two scenes that define Michael's transformation are firstly the scene where he takes the lighter after facing down Hitman through bluff. His hand is steady and calm while his partner shakes due to nerves. A flicker of the acknowledgement of who he really is appears across his face. The second is when his family begins to understand his true character, when he calmly states, "It's not personal, it's strictly business." In the book, he delivers this line with strength and aggression. In the film, he is determined, calm, even cold. This is just one example of how the film improved from the book. We can also identify with Michael's conflict in the scene where he has to execute Solozzo and the police captain. When Michael comes out of the toilet, he should come out blasting, but he sits down, deviating from the plan. He's in doubt. Is he capable of murder? It makes us ask, would we pull the trigger? After taking refuge in Sicily, his father's homeland, he comes to understand his father's struggles. This reminds Michael of his father's sacrifices to give him a better life. In Sicily, he also meets Apollonia, who represents the perfect, almost dreamlike wife. Kay, in contrast, represents reality. Apollonia is the traditional conservative life, Kay, the modern and progressive. Michael is forced to embrace the modern after the death of Apollonia. The past. He is forced to face the future he once desired as a young man, but it no longer holds the appeal it once did. This choice ends unhappily for all concerned. In the pivotal scene where Vito meets with the five families, the "after all we're not communist" scene, it is here he confirms that it was Don Barzini all along. And it's here he puts into action his plan. He plays the long game, and it's here we get to see the true magnificence that is Don Corleone. As men, we must learn to play the long game. At the climax of the film, we get the contradiction of the Catholic family man and the ruthless killer that Michael has finally become, shown with sublime brilliance in the film's final act. Michael inevitably never gets the respect his father had. This is very common for those who inherit wealth. Let's try and imagine a Hollywood version today. It would be so far removed from this world, they may as well be making a film about life on Mars. Not to mention the diversity quotas, representation, intersectionality, and new wave feminism that would all be shoehorned in. Let's pray it never happens. And I wonder what Don Corleone would say to a gender-fluid 20-something man today.
You can act like a man! What's the matter with you? Is this how you turn out a Hollywood Pinocchio that cries like a woman? What can I do? What can I do?
On the manly meter, it gets a 5. Being a man, it's not just about shooting bad guys and flexing your biceps. It's about taking care of your family.
You spend time with your family?
Sure I do.
Good. Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.